Nothing. Anything in the district highlights, Mr. Lembo?
The future looks bright for the 4th and 5th grade students at the Samsell Upper Elementary School who took part in a Career Day College Admissions Day event on Friday, May 23rd. In connecting the school counseling curriculum and national standards for school counseling with the school-wide theme, College Starts Here. This activity and career awareness was a culminating activity for the students after a year-long wide school initiative. Teams began in the fall and involved themselves in helping students throughout the year with various activities. On Thursday, May 22nd, the Sayreville War Memorial High School chapter of the National Honor Society held its annual service project dinner for the Sayreville brain-injured children. Faculty, staff, and administration adorned their chef's hats and prepared the evening's meal. Thanks to the efforts of everyone involved, the High School National Honor Society raised $3,500, which was donated to BIC. This is the biggest contribution given to date. Thank you to the National Honor Society, led by Mrs. Sarah McGow. Your hard work and generosity in this wonderful organization make us proud. There was magic in the air at Kennedy Park on Friday, May 23rd. The Sayreville War Memorial High School Recording and Entertainment Workshop students released their final product, a CD entitled Insert Title Here. The students also performed their hits live for an audience of over 100 people. Our own John Walsh, physical ed teacher at the high school, set the tone by rocking the audience with some classic rock summer songs, which opened the floodgates of applause for our students. Classic songs, as well as original creations, highlighted the show. This event showed how curricular schoolwork can be applied to real life outside school. A heartfelt thank you to Mr. James Kraft and Mrs. Claire Kraft for their hard work in making this event happen with the help of Mr. James Brown, Principal, and Mrs. Claire Gazinski, Vice Principal, for making this dream a reality. In 1918, the Commission of Secondary Education created a list they entitled The 7 Cardinal Principles of Education. Character education development was one of the 7 principles listed. Unfortunately, because our curriculum has quadrupled and our school day and year has remained the same, character education has often been shortchanged. Not in Truman School. On Friday, May 30th, a group of students, along with the entire Truman School staff, put on a musical performance based on the Disney theme, Together We Can Do Great Things. The students were superb. Music indeed makes the world go round. A sincere thanks to the entire staff for yet another job well done. That concludes our highlights, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Lembo. Dr. Alfano, can you please take us through the superintendent's report?
Thank you, Mr. McEnroe. Page 1, Section 1, Buildings and Grounds, there's no report. Section 2, Finance. A to L are our regular finance resolutions. Item N is our substitute teacher daily rates, which is on page 2. Item O is the Supervisors Association approval of their contract from 2008 to 2011.
Hold on, Dr. Alfano. Mrs. Backo, can you just please inform the public of the specifications of supervisor's contract that we're voting on this evening?
The supervisor contract was 3 years. The total of 3 years was an 11% pay increase. The clause for the payout for vacation days was removed from the contract. And there was an increase in professional fees. Is that it? Oh, that's pretty much the basis of the changes.
Now, my only comment as a member of that committee is that it was a very professional meeting and it was resolved very quickly. Thank you, Dr. Alfano.
Thank you. Item Q is preschool salaries. Item S is the approval of our attorney, Valence, Goldman, and Spitzer. Item T is our auditor, Lurch, Vinci, and Higgins. Item U is our capital financial advisors. V is Land Associates, doing the first phase of the multi-purpose room floor at Wilson School. W is a bid replacement, again at the Wilson School. And X is a change order, a credit of $13,000, and then Y is an approval to request to rescind the approval from the May 20th board meeting of educational data, which we are now using, which was a good question. We are now using the Middlesex Regional Education Commission to doing all our bids.
Dr. if I could just, so the board
Sure.
understands. Again, this is part of Middlesex County's Business Associates getting together. And what we're using is Middlesex Regional was willing to be the host. So now we've all joined on to go through them, but it's still Ed Data that's providing the service. Since we've all joined together, Ed Data agreed to reduce the fee for all the districts that have participated. So again, this is just another thing that the county association between superintendents and BAs have been working together to bring the county together to do our bulk purchasing to hopefully save money for all the districts.
And that's what the county superintendent's pushing very hard for us to do. And I want to thank Mr. DeAndre for getting involved. Mr. DeAndre, would you take the public through the rest of the finance report, which starts with, I believe, AA?
Sir, AA is the approval of the Teamsters Local 469 contract negotiation. It's a 3-year contract, 12.5% over 3 years is what they agreed to. No major changes in any language of any kind that really needs to be noted. Item BB is the rental of Slover School to Middlesex Regional Ed Services. Each time they take on another classroom, the board will approve another contract. The attorneys thought it would be best for each classroom we renew the contract based on the terms. CC is for the use of the classrooms at the middle school to run the summer school programs. DD is the Middlesex Regional Summer School Agreement. They will provide the services for those students entering summer school. EE is the BASS program. That's the after-school program that is run in the district. We charge them based on a per-student fee. FF is the E-rate consultants that we bring on to file our E-rate application that is done on a yearly basis. Item GG is the request for tax payment from the borough, and the tax sheet is included. HH is to purchase 2 maintenance vehicles from Warnock Ford. II is to purchase for $576,000 for 1,000 brand new computers. They will now start the process of our 6-year cycle instead of our 9-year cycle. That is our goal, to do new computers every 3 years within the district. JJ is to purchase a Type C passenger bus from Wolfington. KK and LL are rejection of bids because they did not meet the bid specs for one specific item that we believe is a safety item that we want on our buses moving forward. So we rejected those two and are awarding to, on MM, the purchase from American Bus, which does have a safety feature. And is the removal of asbestos flooring up at the middle school. And OO is a little bit different for this board, since we're looking at lease purchasing options. Instead of lease purchasing smaller items, the bus, the truck, and computers, what I'm doing is bundling everything together and going out with one master lease purchase. And the lease is going to be structured in a way that it matches what we did in the budget. The truck will be amortized over 5 years, the bus will be amortized over 4, and the computers will be amortized over 3. So we're going to stay within the budget requirements as we prepare them. It's just that I'm going out with one big package instead of having 3 separate ones, and we're optimistic that the interest rates will be drastically lower than doing each one individually. And that concludes finance.
Mr. Sayak is the chairman of the Construction Oversight Committee. If you can just update the public on the current status of the construction project.
The reason I want to do this under finance is because it actually pertains to a bill that's on the bill list for Rivardo, Schnitzer, and Capacity. As some of you may have noticed, we have not paid Rivardo, Schnitzer, and Capacity since November of last year for any of their services when we were under basically a contract that's going to have us paying them $10,000 a month for their ongoing services through the remainder of the contract. And the reason for that is we've been unhappy with the fact that we haven't been able to get our permits, and we wanted to make sure that we had sufficient leverage in terms of support from our architectural firm to satisfy the requirements of the Sayreville Building Department. We received a phone call from RSC inquiring, actually we received several phone calls from RSC over the last few months inquiring why we weren't paying our bills. And we basically provided them with that information. We did receive a large portion of the permits that are required. There are still some small items outstanding. As a result, RSC did meet with us and requested that we pay the bills and ask why we weren't paying the bills. What this committee has worked out, when I say this committee, I mean myself, Mr. McAgnone, Mr. Lembo, and Mr. Bashad of the High School Oversight Committee, is an agreement with RSC whereby we would pay them for their services from December of 07 through June of 08, $10,000 a month. And then going forward from July of 08 through December of 08, we would reduce that payment by $2,500 a month so that we could basically ensure that there's an opportunity for us to revisit that contract again in January and make sure that they're providing us with the necessary support that we need to get this project done. We've consulted with council. The only way that we cannot pay them is if they are not performing the services and have basically been determined by a court of law to have not been performing the services outlined under the contract. And we're not at a point at this point where a court of law has determined that. So it's either we're in breach of contract or we pay the bills that we're required to pay. The bottom line is if we want to get this project done, we need architectural services. There is no architect in their right mind that would pick this project up at this point with someone else's plans. So we're really in a situation where we need to proceed, we need to pay them, and we need to keep this project moving. This does not in any way affect, relinquish, or eliminate any responsibility that any of the parties involved in this thing may have. We still have any rights available to us under a court of law to go after anybody who we feel has been negligent in this process going forward. With regard to the high school referendum as a whole, we are proceeding on a massive scale this summer. We're going to continue proceeding with the footings and erecting steel in the B wing in the cafeteria area. We are demolishing the music wing and we'll proceed with erecting steel in that particular area. We are doing massive demolition and renovations in the gym area, boys' locker room, girls' locker room, gym floor, the unit ventilators in that area. In addition, we're renovating the entranceway to the gym area on this side, and we're also tearing out all of the unit ventilators and the windows in the upper A wing and the lower A wing, starting with the gym and moving forward as far as we can get. And when I say that we're doing all of that work, I think you can understand now why it's important that we have an architect on board, because with the amount of work that we're doing and what we're biting off, if we can't finish it, we don't open. We can't be in a position where anything happens that prevents us from opening school in September. So it's a critical time period for us. A lot of people are losing sleep, me being one of them, and we'll continue to move forward. Also on the bills list, unrelated, I need to abstain on a check to Carroll's Typing and Printing for payment of bid services.
Mr. Sack, only one correction. There was a slight change with the window direction. We're going to start at the front of the building and work back towards the back. Due to the fact that the footings are still ongoing, they changed the course to move to the front of the building.
Okay.
Any other questions for section 2?
Mr. DeAndrew, JJ and MM, the two buses, are they replacing existing buses? Or
Yes, they are.
replacing?
Every 12 years we have to take them offline. But both of those buses are going to be reused in maintenance areas, as we've done before with other minivans that we've taken.
Mrs. Beck.
NN, what was the dollar amount for the lowest bidder?
I follow. Which one?
NN, the asbestos?
It was a unit price, and again, I use unit pricing because it depends on what type of asbestos they're removing. If it's flooring, if it's piping, I would have to get you all of those details. Bear with me 1 second. If we were to use 20,000 square feet of floor tile, it came out to $73,800. But as I said earlier, there were other items included, so that number could fluctuate depending on if they find more of a certain material when they take up flooring. So right now, it's around 73.8, but it's going to be based on actual square footage of what actually gets removed.
HH, those are pickup trucks? Okay. Are those the pickup trucks that were in the budget?
Yes, those are.
Is 48,000 for two or each?
Two.
That's for two?
Yeah.
All right. What is the 48,000? Is that the purchase price?
Yes.
That's the purchase price. So we only budgeted 5,000, so is the first year only going to be a $5,000
Yes, that's
payment?
when the amortization schedule comes out, it's going to be based on our budget requirements.
Okay, so when you came up with this 757,000, do you have a breakdown?
Yes, it's the two trucks for 48,000, 576,000 for the computers, the 49,554 for the one bus, and 81,400 for the other bus.
Okay, so the 567 is the total price for the computers as well?
Yes, everything is purchase price, what you see
Okay.
here.
So when we approve this 757, is that going to cover, do we have to do this every year? Or
No, it's one of
this
these
will cover
purchases.
the whole 3 years?
One lease purchase, computers will be done over 3, buses will be done over 4, and the trucks will be done over 5.
So when we lock into an interest rate on the 757, that's good for
That'll cover
all the
everything.
years out?
Yep.
Mr. Bishop. Thank you, Mr. McEnroe. Mr. DeAndrea, on V, with land, is it possible that we can negotiate a lower rate? I calculated out about 12.85% for the work on the Wilson floor. Is it a possibility we could approach them and ask them to drop the rate down a little bit? That way we'd have more capital that we could work with to improve that floor area?
I could go back to them, yes, but again, we discussed this at the time when we awarded the contract we were willing to do per item, and this was their bottom line fee for service. And again, as the interview process indicated, the lower the price of the project you're doing, the higher their fee is going to be. I mean, when you look at 6,800, although a percentage of the project seems high, it's not much. And keep in mind, it would have been higher if Mr. Pantaleano didn't agree to be the construction oversight on this. So, I mean, I could ask, it delays this project even further.
Well, it's just a matter of a phone call. That's
Yeah,
what it is. I mean, you know,
I could definitely ask,
I don't
yes.
have an answer on
I just
this.
asked that the board approve this, so that I can continue working on the project, because we're trying to get it done for the end of the summer, but right now it doesn't seem likely. So this may go on while kids are in school at this
Two
point.
other questions for you. On HH, the resolve, the Board of Education Journal expense, we have, there should be two figures here broken down with the $52,488,000. One will be the debt service,
That's on the attachment.
okay, and, because I don't see it here, I don't see it broken down into dollars and cents, the two of them. What we're asking the town to give us in taxes towards education, plus the debt service, I think we should have had the two numbers and add them together to give us that 52 million. That's just my suggestion.
It's the resolution the board has always passed with the attachment, so.
The attachment breaks it down.
The attachment breaks it down for you.
Okay. The last thing on the II, the two trucks, are these diesel with plows or gas with plows? Because when we had our finance meetings, we were talking about diesel trucks with plows, that way we could cut back on some of the cost of snow plowing.
I have to look at it, do not recall. The detail does not indicate either diesel or gas. I do not know.
But
They are with snowplows?
They are definitely plows, that I do know.
because the reason I ask is because one has more power, the diesel will have more power, but cost to operate will be greater, whereas the gas will have less power and may be cheaper to operate.
I wouldn't know that level of detail, Mr. Bishara, to be honest with you. I leave that to Mr. Pantaleano, but it doesn't indicate here either one.
One last thing under finance. Could I request from you, being on building and grounds and also on the referendum committee, could I get a listing of the amounts of money that we have come into the miscellaneous revenue account from the construction debris that we have recycled, such as the aluminum, copper, or anything else, whatever has been done? Could I have a list of that, please? I had checked with Mrs. Backo first about it. She told me to ask you directly about it, because she's in charge of finance. I just would like to know the numbers.
From the construction debris?
Correct. You know, the scrap aluminum, scrap copper, whatever miscellaneous that we've gone, we were able to recycle and bring back into the general, I believe it's called the general revenue account, you called it?
Miscellaneous revenue. I can give you a ballpark figure, it's only around $3,000.
We don't need it right now.
With no other questions, Section 3, personnel non-certified. First 5 resolutions is a resignation, a transfer, the appointment of an emergency on-call worker, a withholding of an increment, as well as a payout for a retirement bonus. And I would again like to congratulate Connie. 42 years of service in the district is just amazing, and she was a very good and long employee, and wish her well in her retirement. Section F are new employments. G are cafeteria aides. H is bus aides. I have some corrections. Mr. DeAndrea, please make sure we get these down. I do have them. The off guide, the I, we have corrections. Instead of it being 0708 enclosed, we approve new rates for 0809. Okay, so that's on page 10. Ms. Cooper, base salary would be $52,300, and her salary would be $55,009. Lorraine DiPaolo, her base salary will be, new salary will be, base salary will be $59,500. Her final salary will be $64,400. Isabella Hospodar, her base salary will be now $49,800. Her full salary will be $51,400. Kathy Iacone, base salary will be $41,300. Her full salary will be $43,950. Maureen Prodman, 51.5 base and $56,220. Miss Jenkins, her base salary would be $77,295. That's her total as well. And Miss Ranowitz, her base salary would be $67,600, and her regular salary would be $67,600. Those are changes to I. J are the other off-guide salaries. K are food service people. L are the secretaries. Bus mechanics, as needed, paraprofessionals, part-time paraprofessionals as needed. Campus monitors, this is on page 14. M is bus drivers. N are the Teamster salaries, which runs through page 15 and 16. O are the cafeteria workers. P is the extended school year salary people. Q is also part of the extended school year. R are substitutes. And temporary help, non-certified. That runs you through page 20, 21, 22. All the way to S, which again are more substitutes. And that's the end of section 3. Any questions? With none, moving to 4. Personnel certified. A, B, C, and D are either pregnancy leave, child-related leave, or transfers. E are new employment. F is the very successful enrichment program, and I would like to comment that the program is, we just picked up, the reason why we have an extra person, we just picked up 9 more children that want to be part of the program. We have about 30 children each week that will be part of I believe it's a 6-week program, Ms. Brady, and that's doing very well. So it's a self-sufficient program. This is at no cost to the board. G, again, is an extended transition coordinator for the extended school year. These are all required. Extended school year program, again, some salaries is H. I, we need to do some IEPs over the summer. These are teachers that are required to come in. J is a school psychologist that is needed. K are the central office administrative personnel new salaries. L, again, a very successful program, is our summer school for basic skills and ASI. M, professional days as listed. N is a pregnancy leave. O is a professional development planning to people that will be paid for doing that. P is the district mentoring plan for 2008 to 2011. Q, a change of credits. R, unused vacation days. S is the summer employment follow teachers days for ISIPs.
Dr. Albano, on the vacation days, the only people currently who are still entitled to this pending renegotiation of the contract are the principals, correct?
Yes.
It's been removed from everyone else's contract, assuming we approve yours tonight.
Yes. T is the principals and the other administrative personnel with the 07-08 rate. They still have not approved their contract yet. U is the new supervisor salaries for 08-09. And V are all the teacher salaries and certified people, and that will run you from 28 or so to page 41. X, Y, and Z, appropriately, are the administrative contracted approvals for the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the school business administrator. I have also left a summary sheet of my contract changes that's available to the public, as well as I have a few copies here that are numbered if people would like to, at the end of the session, to come take a look at the full contract before the hearing.
Dr. O'Connor?
Yes, sir.
If I could just comment about that, I will be opening up to the public for any comments on the superintendents, the assistant superintendents, and the business administrator's contract before we vote to approve on the agenda. So you have an opportunity to ask any questions, but I'll summarize it for you right now. For the superintendent's contract, the information, there is an information sheet, but in a nutshell, it's a 10.5% increase over the next 3 years, which comes out to a dollar amount of approximately $6,250 per year in additional salary. As you know, if you read the news, superintendent's contract has been under much scrutiny due to some outrageous contract settlements and retirement superintendents throughout the state, and the governor intervened, as well as the Board of Education of the state of New Jersey, that every superintendent's contract would be reviewed. The Department of Education delegated that responsibility to the county executive superintendents. And the Middlesex County Executive Superintendent approved only one contract, and that's Dr. Alfano's. Because it's just a salary increase, it's clean, there is no other items in there that we would call fringe benefits, plus we took out and negotiated out the ability to sell back any vacation days. The assistant superintendent and the business administrator contracts are just a flat 3.63% pay increase for 1 year. And the superintendent's contract is for 3 years. So when the board votes tonight to approve the superintendent's consent agenda, they will be voting to approve those contracts. So that's why I will be opening up under state statute for the public to speak about those contracts before the board does indeed vote on them. So just wanted to include that at this point.
Thank you, Mr. McEnroe. Double A, our teacher substitute list, that's page 42. BD are substitute nurses. CC are class 5 substitutes, those are for principals. And that is the end of section 4. Any questions with section 4?
Yes, I wasn't saying letter B.
Mr. McEnroe, a question, please.
Certainly, Mr. Bishop.
Dr. Alfano, under J, application requested through the summer employment of Cynthia Rizala, I believe her last name is pronounced. What is going to be the rate per day or rate per hour that we're going to pay this person?
3214 now.
It's there in J.
That's right, the next line. 32 to 14.
3214,
To 20 days.
not to exceed 20 days.
No, I'm sorry, I was looking at the agenda that we got on Friday, I didn't see the new agenda.
Right, I'm sorry, Mr. Bishop.
Thank you, then.
No problem.
Yes, Ms. Becker.
The supervisor contract, those are 0708 salaries. Just gonna have to read them off. Should be on the last page.
I'm sorry, Ms. Becker?
Those are 0708 salaries, not 08.
Mr. DeAndre, do you have the spreadsheet on this? I have the contract, but I don't have the breakdowns.
I don't have the spreadsheet with me now. Well, you know what, I have the contract with me. Hold on.
I do have, I have the contract.
The spreadsheet.
Could we pull the item and then bring it up under new business once we get the salary information? If it's available?
You should be able to pull it right off the contract. That shouldn't be a problem.
I have the contract, that's it.
What?
Should be able to trace it with the contract.
All right, we'll pull it for now. Any other questions? Okay, moving along. Section 5, no report for policy. Section 6, this is a formality. Some school application has to be approved once it's approved by the county. Special education services, placements and services, which is page 46. Item F, I also would like to thank Ms. Baumann. I know it's a very hectic part of the year. We're now in the process of going to 0809. These are the curriculum people on page 49 that will be writing the curriculum for this year as it stands right now. Any questions with section 6? With none, co-curriculum. Section 7, page 51. These are the coaching assignments. Item D is coaching aids. Item E, another great program that's being donated by DuPont to send 2 of our teachers, actually I believe 3 of our teachers, to the Science Institute for Women in Math, Science, and Engineering at no cost to the board. Any questions with section 7? With none, support services, transportation contracts.
Now, Mr. Mr. DeAndrea, what kind of increase did we see in transportation contracts due to the fuel from over last year?
One bid came in out almost close to 65% out.
65% higher?
Yes, I believe that was what the spreadsheet had on one of them. And I believe one was up as almost 65%, yes. As low as 4%, I believe, when we looked at it. The cost of fuel is driving everything we're doing these days. I have not put that together yet at this point in time because we have another bid opening tomorrow morning for another group of routes. So once we get everything together, we'll be able to assess all that. But I can tell you, it looks like we're going to have to pay real close attention to that. And never mind the cost that we incurred this year just on the buses that we're running. I believe we're about $75,000 over budget for this year on the buses we're running ourselves. So everything is being affected by the cost of fuel. And
Do we pay at cost of what we buy from the borough in fuel, in diesel fuel? Or are they making a profit on that?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know what their cost is, so I can't answer that.
Would they bill us, was it 6 months at a time for gas usage? Is that correct?
It varies. There's no set timelines, but we pay whatever they charge us, so I don't know what their cost is.
The discounted rate is charged by the amount of gallons times what they pay.
So we're paying the cost, we're not paying. Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, Mr. DeAndrea, where does that money come out of? Because I don't recall seeing, at least not frequently, a borough or Cerebral check on our bill.
Yeah, it was in this last bill list.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
For 6 months of fuel.
Okay.
It was in hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it was a big one.
Ms. Benko, this does appear to be the correct salaries. I'm a little bit confused because of the longevity numbers.
So they,
I just looked them up. The top of the guide is 122.5. With the extra money, it's 2,500. According to the guide that's in the contract, it's 125. So if there was a mistake, we'll know right away tomorrow morning when Mr. Anschutz sees that his salary's not accurate.
that was the one I was concerned about.
Yeah, no, it's the top of the guide is 122.5. I think we were thinking about pushing it all the way out to the third year. I thought it was a little bit higher. That's what it says. That's what it says on the sheet. Sort of lost my place. Page 54, the transportation contracts. There's a few trips in here for the enrichment program, which is item G. And there's a few trips already scheduled for September. People are jumping the gun, want to make sure they get in there. And the school lunch prices are also listed from 56 to page 59. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Alfano. Any board discussion, any agenda items or the contracts that I'm about to open up to the public?
Yes, one thing, I believe I must abstain on letter K under 3513.
Which is what? Is that?
That's true. Under superintendent.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Counselor, I have a question. The superintendent's contract, does Mrs. Lesky need to abstain from?
Your wife,
Spouse is a teacher.
any person whose immediate family member is employed by the district should refrain from voting on the assistant superintendent and superintendent's contract.
So, letter K.
K approving the salaries or the contract or both?
It's one of the same.
K is
K is the salary, X, Y, and X and Y are the contracts.
Well, it's K, it's double listed. We always double list it for whatever reason.
Should abstain on both then?
should abstain on both, absolutely.
And I guess that should be the same for Mr. Langdon.
Yeah, there's two of you, right? Yeah.
Anything else, Mr.? Yeah, Mr. Bashad.
Dr. Alfano, under co-curriculum here,
What page?
page 51, the new one that we got.
The new 51? Okay.
New,
I got you, yeah.
Freshman girls soccer coach, Sarah Naldin. This is a new hire. Has she coached in a district before that she got this job? Nobody in the district applied for this job?
I can't answer that question. I leave that up to the athletic director. He makes that recommendation. I couldn't answer that question. I can inquire. Which one are you referring to now? The freshman girls soccer, Garrett?
Soccer, this is a new
Yeah.
art, language arts in the SUES.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that Mr. Kotanovich interviewed her and recommended her for that position.
Mr. Becker?
Aye, the increase in the cafeteria rates.
What page is that, Mr. Becker?
56.
56? That's the state recommended increase.
The state recommends we...
State recommends that we can, that's what we can charge.
Do we ever check what other districts charge for theirs, or, I mean, this is pretty high, it's like a...
I can tell you on the general rule, number of districts go to the state maximum, because that's the numbers that the state allows you to charge on a regular basis.
So the $3.25 is a state maximum?
State maximum.
That's a state maximum. So we always charge a state maximum every year?
Every year we click on it, yes.
Just as a follow-up comment, I spoke to Mr. DeAndrea, in terms of profit last year, at least as of May, because we haven't gotten June's results in, our cafeteria lunch program drew only $1,000 profit for the entire year, and it was $21,000 for the breakfast program. So with the cost of food going up, I'm expecting if we don't do something, we're going to see a loss next year.
Was for the high school, you'd be in a deficit. Lunch at the high school, which makes sense.
Next year is going to be tough, because we're not serving full lunches next year, almost the whole year.
Half a year we serve for lunches here.
And the cafeteria can't operate at a loss. We have to regulate that.
Yep, right.
So do we look at ways of things maybe we could sell that could be profitable, so we don't operate at a loss?
We serve everything that's according to child nutrition guidelines.
The profitable stuff is profitable.
Hot dogs are profitable, but we can't do them because
The tofu isn't selling well.
There's got to be something profitable.
Okay, any other questions before I open up to the public? If not, at this time, open up to the public only for any comments on the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the BA contracts. I will again open up for anything that's on the agenda, and then I will again open it up for any business that may become before the board. So for right now, if anybody has any comments, questions about the superintendent, assistant superintendent, or the business administrator contracts, please up to the microphone, state your name and address. And if you don't want to be videotaped, please say so, and we'll cut the film. Anybody? Okay, if not, I'll close for that. I will now open up to the public anything that's on the agenda. Mrs. Kilcummins.
42 and 43 substitute teachers.
Okay.
What is the difference between a county certificate and an elementary certificate?
This is Sutherland.
A county certificate is 60 credits, and an elementary is a regular elementary certificate or a high school, some sort of high school certificate. So one is a 60 credit certificate, one is a regular high school.
And they are allowed to come in under 60 credits, is that correct?
60 credits.
60,
They have to have 60.
okay, at least 60.
At
Thanks.
least.
Thank you, Mr. Anyone else in the public like to speak about an agenda item? If not, I'll close the public portion on the superintendent's agenda, and I'll request a motion from the board to approve the superintendent's report, being mindful that we also be approving the contract of the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the business administrator. I'll accept the motion at this time.
So moved.
Motion, I need a second.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second to approve the superintendent's consent agenda. Mr. DeAndrea, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Backer.
Page 10.
Thank you.
I and J.
No.
No. Page 26.
26.
K.
Yes or no?
Yes. Yes, also no. Page 41. XYZ, no.
I'll be voting no on the following items.
We need to
Yes,
go,
otherwise.
otherwise, yes.
I have to be.
Mr. Bashada.
Page 8, C and D, the answer will be no.
Page 8, items C and D are no.
On page 10, I and J will be no.
I just asked that you, page 10.
Hold on. Next one?
Hold on. I and J also a no on page 10.
Correct.
Okay.
26, K will be a no. Ready, page 36,
Page 36.
Satchar, Manmet, answer is no. And on page 41,
And just one individual you're voting on.
Correct.
Page 41.
X, Y, and Z, no. Rest of the yes.
Mr. Syan.
Yes with the extension on Carol's typing and printing.
Mr. Clark.
Yes on the required abstain on finance. Oh,
Finance, oh.
that was the principal and supervisor.
Mr. Lembo.
Yes with abstentions on section 7, item D, and the superintendent and assistant.
The ones that I didn't know.
superintendent as
Okay.
required.
Mrs. Stratton.
Page 10, I, no. Everything else, yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Stratton.
Yes.
Mr. Zaleski.
Yes, with no exceptions.
And Mr. McEnroe.
Yes on everything, including the contracts of the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the BA. Okay, moving along with the agenda. Background information discussions, 2008-2009 committee assignments. Everybody received the committee assignments for their respective committees. And as a formality, we have to get a board approval on committee assignments. Anybody have any issues with committee assignments?
This is different from the last meeting?
Well, last meeting I just discussed it. We have to officially have it in the agenda to approve on it.
I move to approve the president's appointments.
I need a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The committee assignments stand. So please get with your committees and be productive. Delegation to the New Jersey School Board Association. Mr. Clark, what's going on in the political front?
The Middlesex County School Board has been nice and quiet since school has ended. This is pro comments for some major things that are going on in the states for our superintendent contracts. School construction, they passed $4 billion. It's $2.9 billion for Abbott districts, $1 billion for suburban districts, and $500,000 for VOTEC. They promised that they're not going to throw the money away like they did with the $8.6 billion previously, but the devil's going to be in the details. There's going to be some new training that's required for board members. Last year, we were required to take NJQSAC, which is monitoring, internal monitoring. Next year, because of the superintendent contracts, there's going to be superintendent contract negotiations and another financial component that all board members are have to be specifically trained on. So all this will be coming through New Jersey School Board notes, and I'll keep everybody updated regularly.
Mr. Andrew, if you could put that mandatory training.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, as part of that, the Ethics
I have
Commission
it. You have it, Doctor.
Part of that, the Ethics Commission is cracking down severely on board members who don't take the training. There currently are 500 board members out of the 5,000 across the state who haven't completed the training. They have to have it, I think, by July 31st, or they face dismissal or censure or a number of other items. So,
Is that true for the assembly? If they fail to go to ethics training, they get dismissed too?
like everything else, they write the laws and probably exempt themselves. So.
That's the hardest part, is being mandated to go to ethics training by our assembly.
So us free board members who volunteer our time are held to jail terms if we don't.
Right. And meanwhile, my mother always said, they're not nice to... Okay, any discussion?
I'd like to discuss something.
Mrs. Bacco would like to discuss something. Go ahead.
Actually, I'd like Mr. DeAndre to discuss it. You had sent some numbers here for the surplus balances that we had applied for next year's budget. And if you could just go through the numbers that we applied versus the numbers you're expecting and the differences in where we stand.
After the budget defeat process, we were required to appropriate $1,910,000. Right now, I think we may meet the mark of about 1.3.
So that leaves us a $600,000 shortfall in this year's budget. So, with that said, does that mean that we should get together and start cutting this year's budget? Before we
I'm going to say no, because it doesn't, we have to take a close look at what we do this year to build up our surplus. And again, I'm only estimating 1.3. Until all encumbrances are closed out, that's the biggest thing, and no disrespect to Mrs. Duffy's department, that's probably the toughest department I'm having right now as to what money we may or may not generate out of that line item. All of the other line items we've kind of been able to pinpoint, but the tuition one has been the toughest one, and it's a large part of the budget. And the flip side is the revenue stream, with the interest rates that drastically have dropped off. The interest earnings that we've met in prior years, we're not going to make this year.
This year meaning 08, 09?
No, 07, 08.
07, 08. So we had applied interest numbers from 07, 08 to 08, 09 when we originally did the budget.
No. We're staying 07. Don't get into 08, 09. We budgeted separate numbers. We're just talking about what we speculated we were going to receive this year.
Right. So how close were we in our speculation would be the question.
I think until I get June's numbers, I can't tell you, because I have about $12 million that are coming due June 30th. So once I see the interest earnings on that $12 million from the referendum, I'll have a better handle on it. But I can tell you, when renewing the CDs that we were out, they were down about a percentage and a half from the prior ones that we renewed. What I've done on a monthly basis is I'm always renewing about $3 to $4 million on 30, 60, and 90-day CD renewals. But I make sure all of them come due June 30th, so we're at that cycle.
Okay, so what do you think the time frame would be for better numbers? Middle of July, or?
I'll know by middle to the end of July exactly where we stand. I normally close out the books and the financial records by the third week in July. We're basically done and over with.
And last year, we sort of, I think, were last on the list for the audit. You think you can ask them to move us up this year?
I can make that request.
Thank you.
Anybody else for discussion?
If I could, Mr. McEnon, and I forgot to say it earlier, I want to publicly thank the maintenance and custodian staff from the graduation ceremonies. They did a phenomenal job pulling together and getting everything inside, and getting the inside was set up just in case, and they made the transition. And I know a lot of gentlemen went home that evening soaking wet, but they really did their part to stand up and help for what was the better interest of the students and the faculty and the staff of this community. I just want to publicly thank everyone, because they did it without any questions. They just did what they had to do, and I just want to, again, publicly thank them.
The comments were all taken, especially the ladies in the front office of the high school. To get those diplomas back in there and in order.
I just would like to say, Mr. McEnon, exactly what you're saying. Some schools in the middle of the ceremony just canceled the program that night. They didn't even go through with it. They gave the children, they gave the students the next day their diplomas. The only guy that didn't get to speak was me, but I guess nobody really cared, so it didn't really matter. But I want to also thank the administration. You know, it was not an easy night. And, you know, everybody's very apologetic, but like we say, unfortunately, we can't control the weather, despite what we tried. And no matter what you do, we talked about this, if we had went inside from the beginning, we would upset a lot of people. If we stayed outside, it rained on us. Obviously, we did the best we could. And like Mr. DeAndre said, a super job by everybody, really. And I want to thank everybody.
Any other discussion? If not, I'd like to open up to the public for any business that may come before the board. Anybody like to speak? Mrs. Kilcommon.
Barbara Kilkins. I was wondering if any thought has been placed on the way you conduct meetings. I have brought this up for the last 3 or 4 years that I've been attending Board of Education meetings. And I feel like your agenda meeting and your regular meeting is too close. You only meet once a month. And if the agenda meeting is different and is open to the public. Now, you met at 5:30 today, correct?
That's correct.
Everything that you discussed from 5:30 to quarter to 7,
Yeah,
50 or whatever,
Right.
was all litigation, all closed session? Like nothing that you discuss in every agenda meeting can be privy to the public?
We discussed the superintendent's contract, assistant superintendent's contract, the school business administrator's contract, the supervisor's contract, off-guide salaries, the principal's contract, which is still in negotiations. We updated the full board on what the status of that is. And we discussed the Teamsters contract. We discussed the potential litigation on the construction referendum. We had an appearance by a individual who's not being renewed, asked to come before the board, and we entertained that. And that was it. And then we adjourned and came into public session.
I mean, the meetings have improved as far as dialogue is concerned. Like I said before, it was just like a horse and pony show or a dog and pony show, where you just went through the superintendent's report and that was it. And there was never any dialogue amongst members. After attending meetings for over 30 years, you know, Board of Education meetings, and I have something to compare it to. And I was just taken back after coming to these meetings and just seeing, it's like cut and dry. Okay, here's superintendent's report, this, bang, boom, it's over. So apparently I thought, well, every discussion is probably, and I even discussed this with the previous attorney, Mr. Jankowski, and it's funny, he said he advised this board against having the agenda meeting prior to the regular meeting. I know some people don't want to come out 2 nights in 1 month, but the council, the way they conduct it, they have an open agenda meeting, they go into closed session, and I mean, I said this before, I hope you're not in violation of any Open Public Meetings Act, and it doesn't just seem normal to me. And I feel all this money, all the problems, that this board should be meeting more than once a month. And not just a quick agenda meeting for an hour and this. I think there's mucho problems, and I think a lot more can be discussed and to be open with the public. And I think you're always worried about your image and the public trusting you and everything else. And I think if you took this under consideration and changed your meeting formats, I think the public might have a different image and be more trusting the board.
Just let me say one thing. Even if we had a separate meeting, when you say we meet once a month, we have one public Board of Education month, but I just was counting as you, this is my 7th meeting this month, and this is, what, the 24th. We talk about personnel committees, negotiation committees, all these other meetings that we go to. I'm not an advocate of spending in other meetings. I do have a family and another life and a job and a
I understand that.
even if we had 2 separate meetings, everything that I just read to you, we still would be able to discuss in public because it's protected. And I'll tell you right now, and I mentioned this to you before, and I'll say it again while I'm on camera, is that this board, under my leadership, is not in violation of the Open Public Meeting Act. And if I ever find out it is, well, we'll fire the illegal firm. Because that's their job, and that's why he sits in this meeting, to make sure we're not.
The other thing is, I think a lot of your dialogue, and correct me if I'm wrong, is done amongst yourselves via email. And when I speak to board member, and it's emails back and forth. And that seems to be the conversation back and forth, and it's not to the public. When we come to the meeting here, it's just a superintendent's report, write down, and that's it. Other than the report that Mr. Siak, Mr. Chak, has given on construction. So, I mean, this is the impression that and I go to all the meetings, I mean, council, whatever, I've been attending meetings for 30-some years.
I've seen you.
And from planning board, I just feel that it's not a very good impression to the public.
I'll speak for myself. When I came on the board, this is how meetings were done, so I don't know any different. So I'm not going to knock or criticize something that I never experienced.
But I wish you were here years ago. I wish you were here 20 years ago. I wish you were here when Dr. Parnell was superintendent, or Mr. Koonsman. That was extremely interesting when they were building the middle school. I mean, the stairs to nowhere, if you remember probably the stories and
Every Board of
everything.
Education meetings went till 3 o'clock in the
And,
morning.
I mean, Mr. Fisher was the architect then, and it's amazing, like, and I knew the open dialogue that they had, I mean, almost to the point of major argument. I'm not looking for that amongst board members, but this just seems to be, I don't know, just, it's not.
Maybe we're all in agreement, on the same page with things. I mean,
I do think it gets long, because what happens is we start at 5:30, and, we've been here a couple hours already, and
And all your dialogue is finished by the time it comes to the
It
public.
could be so much, but not that we don't, but the stuff we discuss, we can only discuss in closed session, so, and we do a lot of work on with committees. So, I mean.
But even if you gave the public an update on your committees and what's going on with your committees, be it finance, be it the curriculum, I mean, I can't explain it. After attending meetings for over 30-some years, I just find it.
We will do that.
Item should then be just discussed in public, and I'm certain that this board does that. Yes, it may seem that there are many items discussed in closed session, but each of those items are properly discussed in closed session, and we make sure of that as attorney and as a board.
But at council meetings, if it goes into closed session, and if they come out, even though it's confidential, whatever, if action's taken, they'll announce that action was taken on this or whatever. Correct me if I'm wrong, we have a councilwoman sitting here or whatever.
Correct.
So, I rest my case.
Thank you, Mrs. Cooper. Anybody else from the public like to speak? If not, I will take a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, ladies.